What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. Hope you are all doing very well. I want to talk about Mistweaver Monk in 10.1.7. Yeah, 10.1.7. We're in 10.1.5 right now. The next patch coming has some big changes for Mistweaver Monk, and it's really, really cool. I'm just going to dive right into them. There was a Blizzard post about it, but I'm going to explain them all right here. So there's some big talent changes for Mistweaver Monk, specifically around their mana and how they're going to get their mana back. In 10.1.7. It's a little bit different than the way it functions right now. Right now, if you're running a melee-centric sort of build, you're going to be basically running Spirit of the Crane, right, over here. Your extra blackout kicks restore mana. This is the main way with every Mistweaver gets their mana back. Even the ones that run the raid build often will pick Spirit of the Crane to get that extra bit of mana, so that you don't even have to use Mana Tea over here if you don't want to. And there's also some other spells like Mana Tea are really good, or Life Cycles helps you save mana, and some other spells down at the bottom here which allow your Renewing Mist to kind of dance around all on its own, and that helps you to save a lot of mana as well. So the old tree had Spirit of the Crane. That is now gone. The main way in which Mistweaver Monk essentially got their mana back is now gone. Of course, we have the tier set bonus right now for Season 2, which gives us a ridiculous amount of mana, but let's pretend like that. I mean, that's not going to exist in Season 3. So the changes that are coming to the mana for Mistweaver are permanent changes. So here's what's happening. First of all, these talents over here are getting moved. So Renewing Mist is staying here. This Invigorating Mist is getting moved down here, and Mastery of Mist is becoming baseline. So your Renewing Mist now simply has 2 charges, and you can see Invigorating Mists is now here, which is fine. That's where your Vivify will cleave. Mana Tea got moved from down here all the way up to here, you will notice, and the Blackout Kick talent is now gone. Sorry, Spirit of the Crane is now gone. It's literally gone. We don't get mana back anymore by Blackout Kicking. It just doesn't exist anymore. You only get mana from pressing Mana Tea, and I'm going to get into Mana Tea in a second. A couple of other important changes over here. Because teaching of the Spirit of the Crane is gone over here, we now no longer go from Spirit of the Crane into Chrysalis and then down to Feline Stomp. You now take a different path. It's gone. So you can now take this choice node, Calming Coalescence or Nourishing Chi, whichever one you want. Each time Soothing Mist heals, the absorb of your next life cocoon goes up, which is interesting. I actually do use Soothing Mist even in a Mythic Plus dungeon. There's lots of moments where I'm like, somebody's about to die, I need to triage them quickly. Quick Soothing Mist into a Vivify spam. Quick Soothing Mist into an Enveloping Mist. That's really helpful, and you can see this counter has gone all the way up to 50, making the absorb of my next life cocoon so that's by 150%. So that's an interesting talent. You're more than likely just going to take Nourishing Chi. Life Cocoon increases the healing over time received by an additional 20%. That's very powerful as well. But I'm wondering if this Calming Coalescence might actually have a place. Bottom line is, you have to choose one of these now if you want to get down to Chrysalis, which you're most likely going to want to do. But like, watch this Life Cocoon that I have fully stacked up now. Watch this sucker. I'm going to hit it. 900k Life Cocoon? Are you kidding me? Like, that's kind of bonkers. So potentially there's something there with this choice node. Either way, you choose one of these and you get down to Chrysalis now. There you go. Now, on the right side of the tree, as I was saying, we now have Mana Tea. It's been moved from down here all the way up to here. Let's read what it does, because this is the primary way in which you get mana back now as a Mistweaver. Let me just renew myself. For every 25,000 mana you spend, you get 1 stack of Mana Tea with a chance equal to your critical strike chance to generate an additional stack. So more reasons to stack crit. And then here's what Mana Tea does when you press it. It consumes a stack of Mana Tea per 0.5 seconds to restore 3,000 mana and reduce the mana cost of your spells by 50% for 1 second per second you spent channeling. This is a channeled spell now. The old Mana Tea simply read, the mana cost of your spells are reduced by 50% for 10 seconds. So we're getting that mana cost reduction, 50%, right? We're still getting that, but we're also getting a flat amount of mana restored, which is interesting, but it is now a channeled spell. Give me a second here. Let me just, like, waste some mana. Do this, then we're going to do this, and spam, spam, spam. Do that. Is that better? That's better, yeah. So, watch this. I've spammed a bunch of spells, and I have 20 stacks of Mana Tea. Now I'm going to press Mana Tea. It's a channeled spell. I can run around while drinking it, but I'm channeling right now. Now, it's giving me most of my mana back, which is great. I fully channeled it. Now I have 20 seconds of my mana costs being reduced, which is super cool, so I can spam again. And I can do my Vivify spams, put some Renewing Mists out, and then channel again, do some Vivify spams. And the mana cost reduction is just now wearing off. Boom. So, and I've built up to my next Mana Tea. I can press Mana Tea again right now if I want to. Boom. There's a much quicker channel, but I had 3 stacks of it. Do you see what I'm getting at there? So, this is a very interesting spell now. It doesn't have a cooldown. It builds off of the mana that you spend, and it's also a channeled spell. When you're done channeling, you get a big buff in terms of the mana cost reduction on your spells, which is super cool. And you also get that flat mana restored. I had 20 stacks, so it gives me, I restored 3,000 mana per stack, so 3 times 20 is 60,000 mana, right? Am I right about that? It's 10,000, no, it's 30, yeah, it's 60,000 mana, I think, that I'm getting back. Just from one fully channeled, fully stacked, Mana Tea thing. And by the way, the buff lasts for 2 minutes. So if it lasts 2 minutes to get 1 charge. Now, here's what's interesting about this. The Blackout Kick stuff from earlier with Spirit of the Crane was, I think, better at generating mana, but forced you to be within melee range. So when you're in the raid scenario, I think this is a giant buff, actually, to the raid mana cost reduction. Number one, the raid build uses a lot more mana, right? It uses a lot of Soothing Mists with Vivify spams because you have your Renewing Mists out. And that Vivify spam as sort of a big cooldown triage ability is fantastic in the raid environment, but consumes a lot of mana. But it also spends a lot of mana, as we just said. And the faster you spend mana, the quicker you get stacks of Mana Tea. So in a raid scenario, Mana Tea is fantastic because you can spend a lot of mana to get the whole group through a triage scenario, and you're gonna build your stacks of Mana Tea much quicker than you would with the melee build, right? If I do a Essence Fawn here, I'm gonna do some this, and then I'm gonna start spamming. I'm using a lot of mana here. I'm building up my stacks of Mana Tea very, very quickly. That's pretty cool. I'm already at 9 stacks just about. There we go. If I go into the melee build and start spinning, I'm not using as much mana here. Watch how slowly this builds up. There's 10 stacks there. Gonna do some healing here with my Phaline down. I'm still at 10 stacks. Still at 10 stacks. I haven't really built it up very quickly, right? I'm still at 10 stacks, doing all the melee abilities. Now I just got to 11 stacks now. So here's my conclusion really about the Mana Tea stuff. Doing the melee build in Mythic Plus with Red Crane, and you're healing a lot through Ancient Teachings, right? That's not going to build up this Mana Tea very quickly, but it also doesn't use very much mana to do that. My Tiger Palm costs nothing. My Blackout Kick costs nothing. My Rising Sun Kick costs mana, but these other 2 abilities don't, and they produce healing. My Shaylin's Gift, which is a massive amount of healing in Mythic Plus, it doesn't cost very much mana. It's 6,200 mana. So the raid style, where you're having to channel Soothing Mists into Vivifies, into Enveloping Mists, that costs a lot more mana, but it also builds your Mana Tea stacks quicker, which allows you to eventually channel again. Also, you can use this channel, which I'm going to do right now. I'm going to channel. I'm very slow while channeling, which is kind of annoying. There's a talent down here called Energizing Brew. Mana Tea will now channel 50% faster and generates more mana. So if you want in the raid, maybe you could do that. Once you're done, you get this big buff to the mana cost of your spells. So in a raid scenario, there's a very realistic scenario where you could like spend a lot of mana triaging your group and get 5, 6, 7 stacks of the Mana Tea built up, then immediately consume the Mana Tea when there's no more damage going out, get a bunch of your mana back, and then get a buff to your spells, and then start healing people again well, you have that 50% less mana use. Get an Essence Fawn out. Get a bunch of spells that cost a lot of mana. Get those rolling in. Essence Fawn is 18,000 mana. You can cut that in half once you're done channeling Mana Tea. So there's definitely like a really interesting gameplay loop there where not only does it give you mana back, but it gives you the old buff of the 50% reduced mana cost. And I think in the raid scenario, it's a buff for sure. For sure, I think it's a buff. In the Mythic Plus scenario, it might be a bit of a nerf, actually. I think the Blackout kick that we had before with Spirit of the Crane was actually just more efficient. It was just better. However, we do get to mess around with this interesting talent now down here where we can pick either Calming Coalescence or Nourishing Chi. I think that's kind of cool. I kind of like this idea of buffing my next Life Cocoon and making it really massive. You see I have 50 stacks on my Life Cocoon again. If I throw it on a dummy, you can see once again it's going to be really massive. Another 900k absorb. So I think that additional part with the talent tree might be kind of worth it, which is kind of cool. Otherwise, this is my typical Mythic Plus setup. Nothing has really changed except for these talents over here. I'm getting Mana Tea over here, which would have been Spirit of the Crane over here, so that's the same thing. I'm not choosing to buff it with Energizing Brew. I don't think you really need to do that in the Mythic Plus build. Maybe in the raid build you would. But I think this is an interesting thing for Blizzard to kind of be thinking about. I think that they're trying to make it so that the ranged raid build doesn't need to worry about Spirit of the Crane at all. I think some people were taking Spirit of the Crane, even in raid, just to try and get that extra mana back. You don't have to anymore. You're going to be getting that through Mana Tea, and it's going to be much better for the raid build, which is much more about dumping those high-cost Vivifies into your team, but they're really powerful because they're spreading and hitting everybody because they have Renewing Mist on them, right? So, interesting changes here from Blizzard. I think it's a buff to the raid build, a slight nerf probably to the Mythic Plus build, but it really doesn't matter because in Season 1, we still have our tier set bonus that's giving us mana back. Every time Renewing Mist, we cast it as a chance to give it to us. So I don't think this really matters. Once we get to Season 3, we'll have to see if this matters for the Mythic Plus build. Again, I don't think it will because the Mythic Plus build doesn't use very much mana in order to get a bunch of extra healing out. It actually uses very low cost abilities. So I think this is a win from Blizzard. I don't mind the change. It's a little bit weird that you have to channel it. I'm not a huge fan of that. But again, in the raid scenario, it won't matter. You can channel during downtime. In Mythic Plus, maybe you can channel in between packs. Right when you're getting to the next pack, maybe you can be finishing your channel. It'll be kind of a min-max thing, I think. But ideally, in Mythic Plus, you don't want to be having to channel this thing in the middle of a fight when you want to be healing people. So we'll have to kind of keep our eyes on that. But that's it for the Mistweaver changes. That's basically all of it. Again, also baseline, we're getting 2 Renewing Mist charges baseline, which is really, really solid. And they shuffled a couple of other talents around. But otherwise, it's basically the same. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about Mistweaver in 10.1.7. What do you think about the mana changes? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you think that it's better for Raid, like I'm suggesting? Or do you think it's better for Mythic Plus? I would love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much again for watching. Love you all. I will see you in the next video.